everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek. I'm back today because I did finally finish the Gateway saga. It's complete, it's done, it's in the books, the book is in the books. What Lay Beyond is complete. I initially intended to do each story as its own video, but I finished it as we were away on a vacation, so I didn't have time to come back and do, a video for each one. So what we'll do is just kind of rock and roll right through the last, I think, 3 books here. Because we did already talk about, well, not books, I should say stories. We talked about One Giant Leap, and we talked about Challenger, and I think that is where we left off. So we still have, quite a bit more that we need to talk about here for sure. So I did not take the very best notes here, I'll say that. Again, we were on vacation and I was kind of distracted with other things. Also, in other news, we got 2 cats, and my children were gracious enough to allow me to name one of the cats Seven. So, yes, 7 of 9, tertiary adjunct of Unimatrix 01 and Creamsicle have officially joined the Talk About Trek team here. And eventually we'll get them out here, but right now they're just kind of skittish little kitties, and that's how it goes. But anyway, What Lays Beyond, again, the first one was the TOS story, then there was the Challenger story, and then they jump right into the Deep Space Nine story, which is entitled Horn and Ivory, which is very interesting. It's basically a Kira. It's like a full-on Kira story, and it wasn't what I expected. And that's kind of something that they do a lot with these books, I guess, and with these endings too, is that they take this opportunity to just write kind of their own fun little, short story, which is kind of what they do here. So sometimes it's not like a complete ending, to the story, I guess, or a continuation of it, but yeah, perfect. Okay, so Horn and Ivory, Kira's story. For some reason, when she goes through her gateway, it sends her into Bajor's past. Something, many thousands of years into Bajor's past, right? And in Bajor's past, she's kind of trapped in this battle zone, right? And befriends this general, and just kind of uses her skill set to help him out and help advance their cause. And then just kind of, and it kind of jumps around in time too. It's an interesting one where you'll get a little bit here, and then boom, all of a sudden Kira and the general, they've been captured in a battle, and then boom, we'll advance the story a little bit more, right? And it even comes down to a point where she's questioning if it was even a reality, but she was injured during the thing, and she still has the scar. So that was a very interesting one. It's very quick, and just like I said, little interesting stories that show this past look onto this historic Bajor, and kind of how this certain part formed, and how these certain people were affected. And and then finally, we actually get to meet An Iconian in this story. So after she goes through kind of this little past thing, then she finds this gateway to go through, and she meets really the first true Iconian of the story, who kind of explains what's going on and how he's kind of like a watcher, a guardian of what's going on, and he sends her back to Deep Space Nine. So that's an interesting story. It's got like I said, it takes this weird turn where you're just, you get this kind of history lesson on Bajor, but I liked it. I like that part about that a lot. So, okay. And that was, again, the ending to Demons of Air and Darkness. Now, I'll finally be able to get all these books off my desk, too. I've kind of been just, hanging on to them since we've been going through this, and it's added up to this absolutely big pile, and these all can now finally go back where they belong. So look here. So here's the here's the entire saga in one hand. do like a funny face and be like a thumbnail. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay. So anyway, the next one, the fourth story there, is the continue. That's Voyager number 2, the escape. Here we go. The conclusion to No Man's Land. In this, did I say that the Deep Space Nine was Keith R.A. DiCandido? Because it is. And the next one, which is the Voyager one, is In the Queue by Christy Golden. And the Voyager book, In the Queue, I just got that. I'm a little slow. Alright, anyway, the Voyager one here, the conclusion to No Man's Land. In the end of that one, basically, Janeway and Fluffy / Barkley, the dog that they found, they go through the gateway to see the original kind of location of where he came from, right? So on the other side, Janeway is kind of treated to all these weird little scenes. Like, here's a scene of her young, here's a scene of her old and home, so she immediately knows something here is wrong, and she finally figures out where she actually is, which is in the Q continuum. So here we get basically a lot of, just exposition about how all this came to be. And if I'm remembering correctly, and if I read correctly, young Q, Q's son, who's featured in Voyager quite a bit there, created this gateway technology kind of almost accidentally as a child. And there's this weird thing with time, because he came after, but then the Iconians were millions of years before. But the way I understood it is basically kind of the Q's meddling was what caused the Iconians to be able to create their gateways, right? But they're not the ones who are the cause of everything that's going on now. So that's a different thing entirely. So, and he says that they need to ask their superiors about that when they get back to the Alpha Quadrant. So anyway, they are kind of just talking. That's basically like this whole the majority of this story is Q and Janeway kind of talking, and he's being a bit condescending. At one point, he turns her into a child, but you can tell that he genuinely cares, and he's trying to kind of explain things so that she can. And also, he's very pleased as well that they've been able to rescue young Q's dog. That was the one of the reasons that he was also very happy. So he explains just kind of basically the general. I don't know. It's very random that somehow young Q created this gateway system, and then they gave it to the Iconians. But anyway, what I liked about this one too is it was kind of a strange way of finishing it, but they didn't let the original story kind of go away. So in the original story here in No Man's Land, she's guiding this kind of fleet that got lost in the Delta Quadrant because they went through these different gateways, right? It turns out that Q, using a little bit of his, Q power, purposefully aimed these people's gateways to be let out near Voyager so that they could be helped by Voyager. So in thanking Janeway for saving the dog and helping out, he sends all of the ships home, right? He asks if he can send her home, and she says no, they're going to do it the way that they're supposed to do it because she feels, they're supposed to be there. So a good ending and a very, just a fun. I didn't expect Q. I wasn't expecting Q, and I should have known by the dang name of the story, Into the Q or whatever. But yeah, so Q is somewhat now involved in this story. Now, the next one. This was really cool. So this was the the New Earth series, right? Or New Frontier. So you've got old Mackenzie Calhoun here. and of course Captain Shelby. They're the stars, but through their gateway, they end up in kind of like his planet's version of Valhalla, where every day they wake up and they go to battle, and if they're killed, they just wake up again the next day and they go to battle. So this book has all these scenes where they're going, they die, they wake up, they repeat the same day again, they die this way, they die that way, they learn to avoid this, they learn to avoid that. So this, it was a completely kind of different thing altogether. I really liked, I liked the, I don't know, kind of almost reminded me of that movie, Edge of Tomorrow, you know, where they have to keep living the same day over and over again, try to learn the perfect way to do it. So, anyway, that's what they do. They go through that. There's a lot of battle in it. And again, it made me want to, I don't know, maybe go back and read his origin book, wherever that is, just to kind of see how this, I don't know, like warrior ended up as a Starfleet captain. I think that's got to be an interesting story in there somewhere. So, all right, so that, and that's basically all I'll say about that one. You should definitely get into it. It's just that the whole thing is just very, very well done. And then the final, let's see here. All right, so that was Death After Life, and that was by Peter David. And then the final, very big story they left to Robert Greenberger, and he's telling the Next Generation story here. It is called The Other Side, and it's I don't know, it's a fitting like end to the story. It, I think, comes in maybe about 50 to 40 pages longer than any of the other short stories that are in the book, and it's fun. It kind of reminded me almost of I don't know, like an old school kind of like quest thing. So anyway, I'll kind of get into it a little bit here. Picard, when he goes through his portal, right, he's looking to find the answer, you know, the answer to how to shut down this whole thing, this whole system. So when he goes through his portal, he gets to meet up with the Iconians, right? And then the Iconians here are very different than, I guess, what he expected, and also what I expected as well. Here, the Iconians are, I don't know, just kind of almost just a whole different people from who they were before. The gateway technology, everything they did with it, for them is all something that's just in the distant past, and they've moved on beyond it. Basically, their whole race has moved on to, I think they put it as studying places that they can go without the gateways, you know, or places that the gateways can't take them. So they're like doing like extra dimensional things, and who knows what they're doing out there. But basically, they've sent these 6 Iconians back to be like sentries to watch and make sure, you know, if the gateway system comes up, you know, try to mitigate the problems that could arise from that, right? So that's their general goal and what they're trying to do. So Picard meets up with them, and he talks with them, and then learning all this, he's kind of like, I guess, unimpressed, you know? He was hoping that they would have all the answers, that they would be, you know, the masters of their technology, would maybe be able to tell him things, you know, show him things. But basically, they have to consult the manual, right? So when like they have to figure out, all right, how do we shut this thing down? I don't know. We gotta go look. Let's check the manual. They go over to the thing. You know, they're reading through. Right here. It says we have to get the resonator. Well, where's the resonator? Well, we don't know where the resonator. Let's look here, and then they gotta look over here. You gotta go to this planet here to get the resonator. So, I liked that. I liked how they took this idea of these super advanced species, but made it so that they didn't even know what to do with their own technology, because they had moved so much beyond it, or maybe just, you know, consciously wanted to forget about it because they were pursuing, other things. So that was awesome. Anyway, they open a gateway for Picard to send him to the planet where these resonators are, right? And on this planet, it was the kind of like one of the final planets of the Iconians before they decided to go to some other galaxy or something somewhere. So Picard is sent here, and this is when the book kind of turns into this like little quest where he keeps hitting all these different little. It almost seemed. I really thought they were going to come through in the end, and it was going to be like some kind of test from Q or something. So at first he comes along like this guy who's trapped under a cart, and like he rescues him and he saves him, and then like he comes along a woman who's being. I think they're thinking of like stoning her to death or something, and he interferes there and he saves the woman, and then he comes along this like young boy who becomes his companion, and then he comes along a farmer and he talks to this farm. So just these various little sequences that he goes through, all showing his kind of like his nature and how he interacts with people and how he can, change things for the better, I guess, and just. It seemed so like set up. He had all these little tests along the way. I was sure it was going to be something, but it was just how things went on this planet for him. Turns out they had to make it all the way to this city to find this resonator through a little bit of, ingenuity. He's able to kind of map out where he thinks it might be. They get to the building. They find there's not one, but 14 of these resonators. So now I'm like, oh, that's what they're going to do to bring this whole thing to a head, right? They're going to bring everybody back in this one for the end. And that's what they do. So Picard gets the 14 resonators, opens up a proper gateway back to the Enterprise E bridge, and then they distribute all these resonators to all the different ships. They of course know each gateway they have to go to. Every ship heads to the gateway. So here you have, everybody coming back. You have the, characters from Deep Space Nine. You have the characters from the New Frontier series. You have the Romulan and the Klingon kind of characters that were in the TNG book. Everybody comes back in the end of this story here. Everybody gets a resonator and they all jet off to their individual gateway they have to shut down. They all put their things in at the same time. Bing, bang, boom. They saved the day. So it was a very satisfying ending, I think, for me. I liked that they took the Picard story and put that to the end and made that kind of like the chief story to finish it out. It was it's a bit of a weird saga, right? Because you have these 6 books here, or whatever, 6 or 7 books that are complete stories. They really are. Even though each of them has this cliffhanger, it does tell a good and complete story. It's not that like where there's basically no ending, But then you have these short stories here that finish that off and then add their own little thing to it as well. So, man, it has been a fun ride. I wonder when did this whole thing begin? Let's find out. How long have we been on the Gateways kick? Oh my gosh, is that for real? We started this on the 13th of July, and we've just finished it up over the weekend. So that is wow. About 2.5 month saga that we were into there. So, man, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? Which is the way that's clear. I'm kind of thinking that I want to do, and I've been saying this before, learn more about Mackenzie Calhoun. So that's definitely an option. We also need to continue just our TNG read through, which would put us into the Double Helix saga. So the Double Helix saga, that is an option. Oh, you know what? Here's a good one. It's October. Do you know, is there like a scary Star Trek book? Or what would be the scariest Star Trek book? I'm going to look that up. That's maybe what we should get into and try to do like a little bit of spooky time. I'm sorry, I'm looking over there. I'm looking at my books. See, look with me. Look. So we got to figure out what we're going to do next here. There's a lot of books over there. I'm going to put that stack away. We're coming back over here. Hello. All right. Yeah, so that's it. That's the end of the Gateway saga. I'm glad I was able to finally sit down and do this video. It's been a long time coming. I meant to do it, like I said, I meant to do it over the weekend, and we were on vacation. Now we got cats. Everything's been crazy around here. So this has been a good one. Thanks for hanging out and listening. As always, live long and prosper, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Good night.